Hello and welcome to Cage Club. Two fans, almost 100 movies, one cage. This is episode 99, A Score to Settle from 2019. I'm Mike Manzi.
And I'm Joey Lewandowski. No guest today. We are so close to episode 100. I think, according to Letterboxd, this is maybe his 89th movie that I've ranked. So I think we're closing in slowly on 100. But next episode, whatever it's going to be, it's going to be Cage Club number 100.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And Joey, welcome back to Cage Club, by the way. I feel like it's been a while.
It took 7 full months this year for a new Cage movie to come out. I mean, we did earlier this year, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse with Nico and Kevo and Jonah. This is the first new release Cage movie this year. And I'm going to say right off the top, not a good movie, but wow, is it a lot of fun to watch, because it is crazy.
Kind of worth the wait, if you ask me. It ticks off a lot of my Cage boxes here. Not a great movie, but I really had fun watching it.
The other big-ish news is that at TIFF this year, so in about a month, they're going to be debuting Color Out of Space.
It's like the Lovecraft and then the guy who is supposed to do The Island of Dr. Moreau. And then they did that great documentary about him.
Yes, Richard Stanley. Yes. So this is going to be this crazy, weirdo, sort of sciencey, science fiction-y. So I don't know if we're going to get that soon. I don't know what the distribution for that is, because it felt like Mandy we were never going to get, and then when it was in select theaters, it also just hit VOD. So I'm hoping, I would love to see, Color Out of Space get a real theatrical release. But at the same time, I would love to just have, by this point in Cage Club, I just sort of want to have things just plopped in front of me, either on Netflix or on VOD, and just, let me watch them as soon as I can.
Like this one. This is on VOD and in theaters. Technically, it's one of his straight-to-video on-demand movies. And
it's coming out on Blu-ray, I think, September 24th. So if you want the physical copy, you can pre-order it right now on Blu-ray for $15 on Amazon.
You got to get
not
that for your
too
collection.
Expensive. Yes. Because we were recording The Burbs with Lindsay Gibb, who we've had on this podcast a lot. We were doing it for Hanks for the Memories. She's like, oh, I got an email from a company letting me review a new Nicolas Cage movie early. Which, by the way, where's our email? Why can't we do that?
We got to get on some mailing lists.
We were like, oh, that's cool. I guess there's one coming soon. And then, it felt like 3 days later, out of nowhere on a Friday, dropped on demand.
Exactly, right? It was just like, you get out of work, it's like, what's on? Oh, wait a minute, what? When did this happen? It's just, I like that, though. It's just sort of like dropping new Cage bombs without even knowing about it.
So if you're new to Cage Club, or you're new to our podcast network, or you just only listen to this and none of the other shows, Mike and I every Friday do a Tom Club. We alternate Cruise Club and Hanks for the Memories. We alternate the two different Toms. The way that we do those podcasts now, to sort of keep the conversation moving and focused, instead of just recapping everything, we talk about our favorite moments and our least favorite moments. So I think let's just go back and forth and just talk a little bit each time about the things that we found wonderful about this movie. The first thing I want to say is that finally my dreams that I did not know are fulfilled, in that Nicolas Cage yells Joey probably 150 times in this movie, and I felt so happy. I was like, this is my personal heaven. Nicolas Cage is speaking directly to me. Thank you.
He has one of his freakouts is just screaming Joey over and over, and I was so happy for you. I was laughing so hard. I knew that this movie was going to go special places, but that was terrific.
Hey, you going to sleep the whole day away? Joey? Hey. Hey, Joey. Joey! 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 Joey!
Dad! People are still sleeping.
Where were you?
I don't think he's ever screamed my name on film, but now I'm going to have to keep an ear out for it. But
I think we've had mics for sure, but never because it's not only that his son in this movie is named Joey, but it's that every time he talks to him, which is a lot, he'll say his name in a sentence. And then there's the freak out where he's just shouting the name over and over again. It's almost like the one thing that I feel like he could have said the name more often is when he's talking to other people about him. He's not like, oh, my son Joey, just like my son. I'm like, oh, you gotta come on, just drop that name one more time. Like it's almost as often as he possibly can, not quite, but close.
I want to go with another or a favorite moment of mine. It's related to this because I like how Cage in recent freakouts kind of like takes one word and runs with it, and he does it twice in this movie. He does it with Joey, and then at the end he does it with Beef.
Yes.
When, he's like, I ain't got beef with you. He's like, beef, beef, and he keeps saying it like over and over and over.
Yeah.
And it's terrific. It's so great. And he's in full Cage mode by that final
It's
scene.
okay. It's all right. His beef is with me.
Beef. Beef! You have my son killed. You lie straight to my face about it. You think I've got beef with you?
I didn't mean.
Isha. You think beef is an accurate description of what I've got with your father?
Okay.
And I do wonder, like, it makes me a little sad. I mean, I know it's sort of what people want to see these movies for, but, like, a lot of this movie is just Cage doing crazy things to do crazy things, it feels like. You know what I mean? Like, he's just, like, making decisions, whether they're in the script or he's just doing things. It's hard to tell, I think, at this point. If there's two options, there's, like, door number 1 and door number 2, he's going to kick down door number 3, and in there's going to be a baseball bat that he's going to use to bash it. Like, it's just, like, where did these things come from?
I don't know. But it's terrific. Like, I have a whole list here, Joey, of like bingo card things that we
I thought
would
about
do.
that too, because what was the one that kicked off your brain? That, like, what made you think of the bingo cards? Because there was one specific thing that I thought,
Okay.
and I bet it might be the same thing.
Well, right away, something I feel like we haven't seen in a while. It's a Saturn Films logo.
Saturn Films logo for sure. Yes, number 1. That was not what made me. I wrote that down, but I did
okay.
not. That was not what triggered bingo in my brain.
We get a great looking young Nick Cage lookalike in this. Is that one? Young Cage?
Oh.
Young Nick Cage?
I didn't think. I guess in the baseball bat torture scene.
Yeah, I was like, is that supposed to be Nick Cage like
Damn,
20
I gotta
years
watch it
ago?
again. I didn't see. Okay.
And then they cut to him in prison.
Yep.
So we got like prison there. I mean, there's a lot.
So this movie is about what we eventually find out the reason is that Cage works for the mob or some kind of likewise affiliation, right? His boss is torturing a guy to get information and then beats him to death with a baseball bat. And so Cage takes the rap for him, and the mob says, we'll give you $450,000. You have to go to prison for 5, maybe 6 years tops. After that, you'll be out. We'll take care of you. We'll take care of your family. His wife had just died. You know, it's him and Joey alone at home, and it seemed like they had sort of gone through a rough patch after the mom died, but he says toward the end that he was like, they were started getting along again. And then Cage went to jail. He thought the money was going to be good. I guess it is. And he thought that he was only going to be there for 5 or 6 years. Turns out he's in jail for 19 years, and he only gets let out because he has what I had to Google, which apparently is a real disease.
It's insomnia, isn't
It's
it?
fatal sporadic insomnia. He says, I can't sleep. There's something wrong with my brain. It's incurable and untreatable. So I Googled them, like, is this real? And fatal insomnia, which includes fatal familial insomnia and sporadic fatal insomnia, are rare, hereditary, or sporadic prison disorders causing difficulty sleeping, motor dysfunction, and death. So you can die from this, but they basically, it's kind of like a compassionate release. Like, you're going to die from your insomnia. We can't have you in prison. We're going to let you go. And it's like, oh, okay.
He goes on a killing spree. So, like, bad call. You know, just because someone's got, like, dementia doesn't mean he should be roaming the streets, like, free to, like, you know, exact a revenge fantasy or anything.
Boy, it is wild.
Mm-hmm.
He then goes out to settle the score, the titular a score to settle, and basically take out the mob who put him away, and not only put him away, but didn't take care of his son who was turned into a junkie and is just addicted to heroin or coke or crack or something. Like, he's got drug issues, right?
And Joey, I mean, can we just say it now? I mean, this is something that I've been waiting for a while in CageClub. It's like a whole Fight Club situation here. Joey's imaginary for the entire movie.
Okay, I wasn't sure because I saw that scene and I was like, am I seeing what I think I'm seeing?
Right in prison when the lady's like, you know, side effects of this drug because I think they give him like GHB,
Yep.
which is like a super sedative and thing. Is like you might hallucinate and stuff. And as soon as he gets out, this kid walks up to him and he's like my son Joey or something like that. And I was like, oh shit, this kid's not real at all. The whole movie he's gonna be talking to himself. And that got me super into it. Like that's what I was like clinging to for the first sort of like 15, 20 minutes. It's like, this is terrific.
Because there was the little scene toward the end where like they show the restaurant and a couple scenes and it's just Cage alone and you hear Joey's voice, but I was like, did they just separate? Like, I was like, I don't know. When Joey called, like, they go to get cell phones. Like, this is a crazy movie to think about, like, what it actually is like. But they go to buy cell phones. Joey calls him or what he calls the face call. Not FaceTime, but he face called me. And then the kid at the hotel is like, oh, yeah, there's no calls in here. Could you have deleted it? He's like, I wouldn't put it past myself. But the fact that that's not really, truly, I don't think, ever effectively hammered home is more bananas than the twist.
It's crazy town because when the reveal comes, and I don't know, it's easy to miss. Like Cage goes to the graveyard to visit his wife's grave, and then he looks over and then he sees Joey's grave.
Oh, I didn't. Okay.
And then I was like, oh my God, the hammer has hit the nail. And that's when they do those 2 or 3 little M. Night Shyamalan Sixth Sense shots where like he's not really there.
Saw the wife's grave, and then I looked down to type something in my notes, and then I looked up, and I saw he was looking at another grave, and I just, for whatever reason, didn't go back. That one grave, I missed, oh man. But like, I got
Joey's grave.
I got the inkling, but wow.
Yeah, I mean, this thing is trying to just do it all. It's crazy. Like at first I was sort of upset that he wasn't killing more people sooner or anything, but then I just realized what the movie was trying to do. You know, like I feel like at first, oh man, like they sort of tricked me, but I was like, no, this is like one of those crazy contemplative killer movies who's like at the, you know, it's his last hurrah, right? This is his final, he knows it's like a suicide mission, and it took me a while to sort of like figure that out, that it's not going to be like a Rambo type thing or anything like that. Cage is too old right now, I think, to run around that much.
And then there's just the added irony or whatever. So he meets so he's talking to Joey about he's like, do you have a girl? And then later, like 15 minutes or 20 minutes or half an hour later, he's like, I do have a girl. Her name's Lorraine. We're getting pretty serious. And he's like, oh, that's my mother's name. I was like, ew, gross. In the middle of the movie, he meets a hooker with the heart of gold, basically. This woman, Simone, whose real name is Jennifer. And Cage drops her off at home. And I was like, that seems like a bad idea for so many reasons. And then he calls back the weird pimp who like hands him a business card in a parking lot of this like really nice hotel. He calls him back and says, I want Simone, and a different Simone shows up. And then the pimp shows up because Cage doesn't want that Simone. We find out that Simone is scared of Cage. It's like, well, if you're scared of Cage, why would you let him drop you off at home? I know that you said he thought he crossed the line at the end there, but I feel like if you have any reservations and you are a woman of the night, don't let him drop you anywhere near where you live. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, this whole prostitute subplot is out of control. Like I love it. I got a total Leaving Las Vegas thing from it, because he like hires her, they're having sex in the hotel room, and then he like takes off his shirt and she sees all of his like prison tattoos and his bullet wounds and all this stuff, and she's like starting to fall for him, and I'm like, are we gonna get a beautiful woman finds Cage irresistible?
That was the one that triggered bingo in my brain, because it's like he pays her for sex. I wrote down the quote. She says, "You're so good." He says, "You mean for..." Like, after she rolls off him and says, "You're so good," he says, "You mean for an old man?" She says, "For any man, wow, you're amazing." And I was like, oh boy, what is happening here?
Yeah, and I thought that was just, like hooker talk. But no, because like cut to them driving around on like an impromptu date, then they're banging again, like in the car by the river or the lake or something. A
Corvette he buys in cash.
Yes, when he digs up that big chest of cash in the, we know he goes into the woods early on, and there's that shack, and he picks up a toy red sports car, and that's when I freaked out. I screamed, "Red sports car!" That's how into this I was getting.
So he's got a little cabin in the woods, sort of, where it seems like it's in the backyard of someone else's house,
right? Is that supposed to be like his house situation and that's where they used to live? Because they don't give a city name. The city is one of those movie cities where if you need a suburbs, it's like right there. Yep. Like whatever you need, the woods, the suburbs, a lake, the beach, I don't know.
And so he goes out there, and there's like a chest of $450,000 cash, a bloody baseball bat, which we later learn is the evidence, and a baseball card that apparently has tremendous value, yet is just sitting out there not protected. Cage is like handling with his like bare fingers, just sliding into his shirt pocket. It's like, if this is like a baseball card that they're basically talking about like you can retire on, why are you showing it no respect? Like, it's like that card has such little like, I was just like, that broke my brain as like a former collector of baseball cards. I was like, what is going on?
I was trying to guess of whether or not that was even like a real guy, if it was valuable, and then my brain snapped because I was like, when does this movie come out? Why are they in a taxi? Why isn't it like a Lyft or an Uber or something like that? Maybe, do you need like permission to use that name, I guess? And you can just say taxi?
But you could come up with, I don't know.
You can come up with something, because they did, instead of FaceTime, they came up with
Face
something,
call.
right?
Because I feel like I've thought about this, and even though Uber and Lyft are so mainstream now in our world that even my parents have taken Ubers. You know what I mean? Like, if my parents know what it is, it's mainstream. And I feel like it's still not quite mainstream enough that, like, if you're in a movie and somebody just gets into a car, people are going to be like, wait, what's happening? Like, whose car is that? I feel like in movies, cabs are going to be around for a while just because it's like a definitive, like, ride for hire. You know what I mean? And
Okay.
I think it's like, not a shortcut, but it's just like we're going to sort of take the questions out. But I agree with you. Like, it wouldn't be a cab, especially a $300 cab ride.
Where do they go? Okay,
know.
so they didn't fool me for a second. This is, and I don't mind this, but like, this is one of those movies where they rented an amazing mansion. They try and pass it off as a hotel. In this movie, I was like, that is not a fucking hotel. Like, it could have been so much cooler, I think, if he just rented a house, because, it's like the last month of his life and he's splurging, because it is kind of like a Leaving Las Vegas deal where, like, he knows he's, at the end of his rope, so why not just splurge and be like, yeah, I got this house to myself or something. But that was hilarious.
But I feel like the only reason it's not that is because they want the shorthand, the easy bit or whatever of him running it, like literally almost running into the hooker.
There's very few locations here, so I don't think they could have afforded, like, to go to a bar or rent a bar or get enough extras or anything. Maybe, I mean, later on at that wedding scene, it's a pretty, I mean, maybe we're early at that wedding, but it's kind of an empty wedding.
Actually, I do want to give this movie credit. I mean, it doesn't look good, but it looks better than I was fearing it was going to look, if that makes sense.
Well, it's shot well. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, whoever's like composing it and the cinematographer, like, that's very nice looking. Like, there's some really nice looking shots, especially the nighttime photography and stuff.
Yeah,
so.
and I mean, I feel like technology's gotten cheap enough and it's distributed enough that, like, there's no reason for a movie to look bad anymore. Like, it can look cheap like this, like in terms of the digital video stuff, but like there's no reason why you shouldn't have like a crystal clear, beautifully framed. You know what I mean? It's just like we've made it all so easy for you to handle. Don't give us like a muddy, ugly movie, which I feel like we've seen a handful of times in recent Cage movies.
That's a real true positive about this movie. Whether or not you like it or not, you can't say that it's ugly. Like, it definitely looks good. I think there's some really interesting shots. Like, they hold on Cage, especially early in the prison. I knew, like, early on when he was in the prison hospital and they were releasing him, there's just that long pull out on his face, and he's just got this weird twisted look on his face. I was like, okay, like, this movie is gonna sort of like fetishize him at times, and it does. Like, it holds on him a lot, and yeah, it's well composed, and we only get like his sleepy vision at the very, very end, and so, like, I was glad that we didn't have too much of that point of view, where he's like stumbling around and it's all like multiples and things.
I was thinking about how weird of a casting call it must be to play his wife in this movie because she is dead.
Dead again, between worlds. Oh, Joey's between worlds. This is crazy.
That's
like,
what I was thinking. There's a lot of like temporal flashbacks. Like, I wrote down like Between Worlds because I feel like the vibe, the feeling of this is similar to Between Worlds. Where just like it's like there's all this sort of like what's real, what's not real, whatever. But the casting call for the wife is that you're dead for the entire movie. It's not like Joey where you're a vision for the entire thing, but you're going to exist within a few photos. And you're going to exist in, like, when he's having sex with the hooker in the car, he's going to look up and see your face, and then again the sleepy vision at the end, when he's talking to the hooker again, he sees his wife again. Like, and that's your entire role. It's like, that's, like, what?
Yeah, how do you build on that, really? I don't understand. Then the other thing is, and you're off screen in a shot where we show your grave, so
Yeah.
I don't know if you could use that for any motivation, but action, because I was expecting him to maybe hallucinate more, like talking about how nice this film looks and stuff. Like I thought for sure we were going to start playing a game of who's real and who's not. I wasn't even sure if the hooker was real the entire time.
I mean, I do wonder how much of this is not real. Like, the fact that Joey is not real, did he actually make 40 solid maple bats in prison? That seems crazy.
But also, why didn't he use any of those bats on his
It's like
spree?
Chekhov's bat, right? But, like, it's not. Like, you see the bat the entire movie, and the only time it's used is in the opening scene where he gets put away.
There's only like 2 or 3 guys on his hit list. He gets the shit kicked out of him by the first guy, which is a pretty interesting fight. It's okay. The second guy, he catches him at the butcher. That's a great place where he goes to the butcher and he's chewing on like that beef stick.
Oh my god! Like, he's like Bugs Bunny with a
Ooh.
carrot. Like, we've talked before about like Looney Tunes sort of things, right? But this is like very really like Bugs Bunny chomping a carrot, like just getting information. It's like, what is happening? Like, just like a big old salami stick, just
And then just the guy like gives it up, and of all the criminals, he seems like the nicest, but he just gets capped right in the head.
Well, he's the nicest of criminals because he doesn't fight back. You know what I mean? Because the first guy,
Right.
who like they call him the Dragon, apparently because of his tattooed dick. I don't know.
I think it's a combo of his member, and then he has the big dragon tattoo.
Okay.
Like the girl with the dragon tattoo.
Because he's at like some kind of weird brothel, maybe tattoo parlor, and spins around and he's naked. And he's like, "Oh, is this making you uncomfortable?" He escapes, and that's the fight that you're talking about. But that's when he says that Max is still alive, the boss, because Cage is trying to figure out, like, trying to make sense of things. He's like, "Oh, Max is still alive, huh?" It's like, "Oh, shit." And then he runs away. But then later, he gets his comeuppance because Cage, after he shoots him in the ankle to knock him down, walks over, shoots him in the dick. The guy's screaming. The Cage cups his ear to like listen better, and then shoots and kills him. I was like, "Whoa, wow,
He goes, "They won't be calling you the dragon anymore."
yeah,
I was like, holy shit.
amazing."
That was a pretty great shootout, too, out of nowhere. Like, Cage goes to that retirement home to kill the boss, Max. We find out it's his uncle.
Is
Nice
it his
reveal
uncle, or is
there.
that just his uncle? Like, it could either go either way. Because I was also thinking, like, "Oh, I'm here to see my uncle," which is the only reason they would let him in. You know, because he's family.
Oh,
but
good call, good call.
I guess it doesn't matter. But we found out that Max has been in a coma for 15 years.
I almost thought, like, there's no way. Max is going to wake up, take that bat, and smash
yeah.
Cage over the head.
I thought that too. Like, it's so anticlimactic. It's such a letdown after this entire vengeance movie, where he's like, it's basically Kill Bill light, right? Where it's like, I'm gonna get revenge on everybody who put me away and didn't take care of my son and like had me like led my life to be here. I'm going to kill all of them, and then he gets to him at the end, and he's just an old man, and it's like, oh. But then I guess that's when we find out that Benjamin Bratt is the real mastermind. That also felt like a stretch.
Yeah. I think it was interesting they're trying to do with the boss. Like, the idea that, oh, he's sort of been in a prison of his own, too, right? Like, he's been in this coma,
Yeah.
whatever, for all this time. Like, he's almost had it worse because he's never going to get up again. And Cage being, like, all redemptive and stuff. Like, it should work, but like, the movie just didn't earn it. But like, it's a very interesting idea where the killer gets to the end of his list and decides like, I'm not gonna kill anymore. Like, it's over. Like, I've had enough. But just movie just does not earn it at all. Like,
No.
it just kind of comes out of nowhere. I was like, wait, what? Because he's like standing over him with the baseball bat, and I'm like, this is gonna be the movie where Nick Cage bashes a comatose 90-year-old guy to death with a baseball bat, and then he doesn't. And I was like, ooh.
He just lays the baseball bat on the guy's chest and wraps his hands around it and then walks away. And then talks to the receptionist, who's also the nurse, because I guess she's the only employee at the hospital, because that's all they can afford. And she's like, "Oh yeah, there's a guy who's been coming around for 15 years, or for like 4 years, or 10 years, or 15 years, or whatever. We just call him by his first initial." I was like, of course, the one other guy that we know is the other bad guy. And then Cage goes to, apparently, just so happens that Q's daughter is getting married that day.
Yeah, and that turns out to be Benjamin Bratt,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah, right. And that's when Cage finally like puts it all together. But I love this nurse because Cage is like, "Do you remember the name of this guy?" And she's like, "Well, he used to come around a lot. He was like super charming. I can't remember his name though. We all just called him Q or something."
But
I'm like,
we
"What are
we
you
all refer to him
crazy?"
by his first initial, Q. And Cage is like, "Oh." Yeah.
That was great.
Oh,
That was
boy.
great. And then that wedding, I mean, what a wedding. That scene is just gold. I loved it so much. Like that, the movie did earn this. Like, I feel like Cage earned this sort of performance and the whole thing, and he's got Benjamin Bratt there who's like, he's professional. He's great. He was in Doctor Strange as like for a minute and
Yep.
stuff, but like he's a good actor and stuff. So I could see Cage, like I could see him giving a lot for Cage, a lot of room for Cage to do his thing, and I feel it in the scene too. Like he's really filling this scene.
Well, there's like a scene that's like 2 or 3 minutes long of Benjamin Bratt just like holding court at his daughter's wedding and like basically going up to every single person there and just like, hey, good to see you. Hey, thanks for being here. Hey, you owe me a dance. Hey, how are you? And it's like, what is it? Like, we get it. But he talks to like 6 or 7 people and then he goes to check on his daughter. Clearly something's wrong because the bridesmaids are running out in terror. And the daughter's like, you might want to come in here. And then Cage basically knocking on death's door from insomnia. Again, Fight Club. Like it's literal Fight Club because he has insomnia and Joey's not real and he's hallucinating. It's just
Oh
and
shit.
Benjamin Bratt almost talks him out of it. Cage shoots him in the knee, and then they have this heart to heart, and he decides not to kill Benjamin Bratt, even though he's totally ruined the wedding. And then he walks out. All the cops are outside, ready to arrest him. They see a gun. They shoot and kill him, and as he's dying, he sees Joey all in white, angelic, by his side.
It's just incredible. It's incredible. Like, you know, in the way he didn't kill the old man, like, this is the moment, like, you know, he does it too many times, like, yes, but that's his thing. He's the killer who never kills. But I love that moment when he doesn't kill Benjamin Bratt. His daughter shoots Cage in the back, and Cage just kind of looks at her like, yeah, I deserve that. Like, okay, like, I'm going to be dead in a minute anyhow. And that's the whole beef scene too. He's got a
Yeah.
great freak out with Benjamin Bratt, where he's like, I never had any beef with you, and again, it's just like beef. Like that was just crazy, and yeah, hail of bullets, the gunshots that he goes out on the church steps, just glorious.
Yeah. When he's with Simone or Jennifer, or whatever the hooker's actual name is, who's also a mom and who also just, Cage gives all the money to. And I was like, why didn't he give to Joey? Oh, right, because Joey's not real. But he gives her all the money. Like when she first is, I guess, falling in love with him in bed, she's like, oh, you did time, because she unbuttons his shirt. He's got a chest full of tattoos, and I was like, oh, kind of reminds me. It's different. But remember Keanu and Pip Elias, the full chest tattoo. I don't know if we had really. I mean, Cage obviously has tattoos. He's had tattoos on a lot of things. I think it's even a bingo square. But I feel like
Yeah,
that,
visible
like
tattoos.
that
Yeah.
whole huge, or like a lot of tattoos on the chest, is not something that's usually in his wheelhouse. Was a delight to see.
It's usually something, I guess, more character driven for him too, right? Because like when we see his tats, like I don't feel like a lot of them are his real ones. Like there may be a couple of them, but they definitely added like the chest and the stomach ones to him here, and they've covered up like his Ghost Rider forearm stuff. Like you don't see that. Yeah, but I like that. I definitely had that written down. Visible tattoos. It was nice that they were incorporated into the story as well. Like they weren't just for show. So that was something. Oh, I got a big one. Cage sits down at a piano.
Oh, so here's the craziest trivia of all time. He learned how to play piano for this movie.
No way.
That's what
I figured
IMDb
he'd have
says.
known
Whether
a
that's
little
true
by
or not,
now.
I don't know. But according to IMDb, he learned how to play piano for this movie, which seems like a bananas choice.
Yeah, that is crazy trivia of the year right there. And then he sings along. I can't remember the little ditty that
So
he sings or anything.
He sings an actual song, "Chasing Rainbows, Watching Clouds Drifting By." It's apparently some sad song I don't know, but that was his wedding song because his wife. It seems like he's throwing shade at his dead wife. He's like, yeah, she thought it was a happy song, so it was our wedding song, but like it's like a depressing song. And then the rest of the scene is just him doing like musical improv, like just playing the piano and like singing all of his lines.
Yeah, like, you know, we've talked about, I feel like in the past, how he sometimes he sings a little, right? The opera or whatever, Captain Corelli. There's a little opera music in the beginning of this too. Made me think of some stuff, but like it's been few and far between for real. And I don't think we're ever going to get a Cage musical. If this is as close as we get, a score to settle the musical. I'm happy with this scene. Like this scene was definitely great.
It makes more sense that Joey's not real because they have a very uncomfortable father-son relationship where his son is like basically, hey dad, go fuck that woman. You haven't fucked a woman in 19 years unless you were gay in prison. You should get laid. And then Cage is like, oh Joey, I'm gonna go do that. And so then the next morning, Joey's talking to him like basically like what happened, and then he calls it. I don't know if you heard this, but we had
I
compromising.
heard this. Yeah, I was going to say, what is
He
this?
calls it making mercury.
What is that? Have you ever
Nope.
heard or said that?
I googled making mercury. It's all about how to actually physically make mercury. I don't know if this is a thing. All I can think about, and this is maybe a stretch, but also this whole movie is a stretch. Old thermometers where the mercury rises. I guess that's like an erection, but still, That's like the weird. Like don't get me wrong, I love it. I just don't understand it at all.
Yeah, I'm in that same boat right there. But how incredible would have been if he was like, "Did you compromise her?" My head would have exploded if he said
Well,
that.
Joe is convinced that the Fast and Furious writers are listening to our podcast because
All
there's things
right.
in Hobbs and Shaw that like where we talk about or whatever, and I'm like, it's probably not true. But I think it's still equally improbable for anybody like who actually is like making these movies to be listening to this podcast. But it's a much more likely scenario that a guy who wrote this movie, who has written 2 or 3 movies in his life, found it. You know what I mean? Like it's not like Chris Morgan is like spending his time like counting his millions of dollars and listening to Too Fast, Too Forever. I feel like just some guy who has 2 movies under his belt. Like there's more like it's still not happening, but I think we're
Yeah.
closer to someone compromising, wink, wink, and then hashtag CageClub or whatever.
I mean, I feel like at this point there's a better likelihood of someone writing a Cage movie that's heard this podcast before watching The Boy in Blue. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love that movie and everything, but it's like, pretty obscure at this point, and to pick up like compromising as a turn of phrase or something like that, like it might be coming from us at this point.
So when fake Simone or the other Simone shows up, Cage gets mad. He chases her out of his hotel room by saying, Shh, can't even say without laughing, "Shut the fuck up and get out of here, you phony piece of shit."
Amazing. There's
Great
some
line.
amazing lines. When he goes to visit the dragon and the girls, the masseuse girls are there, he goes, "Bitches leave." I was like, oh my God.
I don't know why. Like, I don't know why he's saying. Like, I don't know why he's a sexist monster. But
I was thinking about that, and he's been in prison for 20 years, and when he went in, he was probably like this sexist monster, right? Like he just, he had a wife and kids, so it's hard to. You're right. I'm confused. Maybe it's just part of his sort of bad persona, like he turns it on or something like that. There's a lot of shit like that in this movie.
Joey supposedly calls him while being tortured by Q's men. We don't know it's Q's men yet, but he gets called, right? And Cage, somehow, the phone receives the call, and then he converts that to a GPS signal, and then is able to use Google Maps to get to Joey. I was like, that's not a thing. But also,
Yes.
it was the fakest looking, like there's just a down arrow, like in red text, like it looked like Google Maps, and there's just a red arrow that looks like a PowerPoint, like flowchart arrow, and then it just says in red text, "turn around," but like on top of the map. I was like, what?
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Okay. I'm laughing so hard right now. I'm trying not to die. But I saw that, and like, it's so funny you mentioned that shit because it stuck out so hard to me. I've been rewatching Twin Peaks: The Return, and it felt like it was like Evil Coop's technology, because like the tech in that series is like very strange and stuff, so it just felt like a phone from like the Twin Peaks that like could just do that and like had weird graphics all onto its own design, and I was just like, this is just more great madness.
Now that smartphones, everybody has a smartphone. Everybody sort of knows what looks real and what doesn't look real, and whether or not you care about that is a different thing. But like when people are supposedly on the phone, and then they like move the phone away from their ear, and like it's just the home screen, or it's like a screen that's not the phone or a black screen. Like, why don't you just like turn the phone off, or just be on an actual call, or like there's so many ways to just easily fake it, so it just doesn't stand out like a sore thumb. I don't know.
I mean, maybe the whole thing was, well, he's hallucinating it anyway, even if the audience doesn't know it, so like let's just do it or whatever. But what I liked was where he went to pick up Joey. It was very 8mm when he got there. It was like
Max California.
this, like, yeah, like this strung out den, all graffitied warehouse thing.
Oh, by the way, I want to say, Joe and I have been doing a lot of boyfriend material lately to catch up, or to sort of finish up the run of that show. One that we recorded this morning, which will come out in mid to late September, was directed by the guy who directed Kiss of Death. So not exactly 8mm, but that's still weird, kind of gritty, mid-90s, what is happening in Cage's life.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that movie the other day. It's got like Sam Jackson, it's got Caruso in there, Cage is great
Bill
in that
Jr.
movie.
bench pressing a stripper.
Oh
I told
my
it
God.
to Joe. He's like, I know that. He's like, why do I know that? That's the takeaway. It's Cage bench pressing a stripper as Little Junior.
It's pretty great. Oh, Cage is a dad in this movie again, so I mean, we find out his kid's dead.
Is this his oldest child he's ever had? Because it feels like, Joey's dead. Like, he's not real. But it feels like he's probably 25-ish. Like, that seems like wildly older than most, if not all, of the other kids Cage has had over the years.
Yeah, that's a really good call. I haven't really thought about that. Is that sort of like more around the age of one of his actual kids or something? I mean, I don't know how old Weston is. Is he over 30? I don't
He's
know
got to
because
be
I was
pretty
sort of
old.
getting
Weston Cage is
okay.
28. He'll be 29 in December.
Okay, so like I was sort of almost getting a Weston vibe from him because he was sort of like gothy and bearded, and not that he was like tall and broad or anything like that, but I was just like I wondered somewhere if like since this kid is playing his son, if like somewhere inside he was like for motivation, it's like maybe I'll just like try and get a little closer to the way his actual son looks.
Another twist-ish, speaking of kids, another twist-ish, it's not like a twist, it's just like it's one of those things where Joe and I talk about this a lot on like movies where people who like, I don't know how to say this without being an asshole, but like, or without sounding condescending, but like people who like don't watch a lot of movies who are just like blown away by like dumb little things in movies. Like when Jennifer Simone reveals that her kid's name is Joey, it's like mind blown. Like that's the kind of thing I can see people being like, oh, but like her kid's name was Joey too. It's like, well, yeah, like what? It's not a real kid. Like it's a movie. But I feel like that's the
Yeah.
kind of reveal that people are like, can you believe it?
Well, what's crazy is like that reveal feels like they're hitting that like harder than his Joey actually being dead. Like that's the weirdest thing. It's like Cage looks at him and he starts crying and he just goes, "Of course he is." I was like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
I still love that he made baseball bats in prison. Like what? What? He got orders from like all around the world. Was this like a internet thing? Is this what he stayed up all night with his insomnia doing? Was making baseball bats? I need to know more.
I don't know. I don't understand it.
Did you catch that Polaroid he had where it looked like him? I was almost like, is that some kind of picture from Raising Arizona or something? Because he looked like H.I. in the photo. He was like thin, young, with a mustache, with his arm around a girl, and I was like, "What is that? Is that a doctor?" I don't know. It was a really weird picture, and it made me think of him in Raising
Another
Arizona.
Cage in prison movie.
That's right.
So maybe it's maybe it's a continuation. Maybe things don't go well with him and
Oh dear.
Edwina, and he just meets. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
They have that kid, and then they both fall victim to the mob, and oh boy, I don't want to think about that.
My biggest takeaway with this movie is that I'm glad that I don't think there was ever any doubt that this was going to happen, but 2019 we can now check off that every year since 1981, since Cage started acting, he's done a movie every year, and not that we were. I don't think there was.
Whoa.
I don't think we ever thought that he was not going to release a movie this year. Being 7 months in, it was a while. We know that there's about a dozen or so, maybe fewer, but like say 6 to 10 movies that he's been confirmed for that are going to come out. But the fact that we
Yeah.
were so far into the year without officially having a movie release, I was like, oh, like I wasn't really thinking about that. But now we can sort of rest easy. It happened.
Oh, you have no idea the sigh of relief. Like you could hear me on other shows we do, like worried about like when's it coming out, what's happening, like what's going on. And now I think I hear like there's going to be another movie next month, and maybe another one the month after that. So he did put out 8 movies last year, which is an incredible number. Enjoyed, if not all, most of them on their own level. Not 211, but the rest of them found a lot of fun in. Like I said at the beginning, like this one was worth the wait. Like this is great. I love this version of Cage. I love this mode. I love these VOD movies. Like I like that I'm able to sort of come down onto their level and watch them and understand them for what they are, and not be too judgmental about them, and still have a lot of fun.
You know what this is actually probably setting us up for, Mike, is either later this year having like a jam-packed year, or next year being another like maybe not 8 release year, but like it feels like there's so many that are in the works. Either we're going to get a handful, like you said, like another one in a month or whatever. There's going to be a glut this year, or next year's going to see like a bunch of release. You know what I mean? I think like
Yeah.
our patience has sort of finally been rewarded.
Something feels like it's about to happen. Like, if not what you just said, I feel like maybe like a National Treasure 3, or him being, or like one of his films getting a big theatrical release, like you were saying earlier, like with the new sci-fi movie that's coming out at the film festival soon and stuff like, so I feel like something, fingers crossed, something big on the horizon for Cage.
Oh yeah, you're gonna have to undo your no part 3 if we get a
Oh, yeah.
Treasure 3. But
Oh,
we'll see.
absolutely.
Any other thoughts about A Score to Settle before we come back for who knows when, who knows for what? Hopefully Color Out of Space, but I don't know.
I think I actually covered like everything. Oh, you know what I was thinking though, that since there were so many things knocking off like a bingo list, I think it's going to be hilarious if he ever actually plays bingo in a movie
Ooh, yeah.
at some point. Like then that's another I'm going to lose my mind moment.
I
So.
would like to see. I feel like we're getting. I mean, age-wise, also like in this movie, he's got sort of got the wispy gray, white sideburns.
Oh,
Like
right, and the chest hair.
he's aging. Yeah, I can totally
Yeah.
see like a madcap, wild, him in like a retirement home, kind of like a zany comedy, but like somehow like just like a surreal, like something that's like with Willem Dafoe as well, like like dog eat dog level, but they're just like playing bingo in an old like a retirement home. Bad grandpa, but like good.
Or like if they were the new grumpy old men
Yeah.
or something like, oh my God.
We're getting there. Like I feel like we talk a lot about, especially over on the Tom Tom Club, we talk on Cruise and Hanks, and we talked a lot in here about how a lot of the leading men in Hollywood don't want to be seen as anything other than that, right? Like Tom Hanks was afraid doing The Burbs was going to mean that he wasn't going to be seen, he wasn't going to be able to do the comedies or everything else because he was going to be like a dad now. And I feel like Cage is finally sort of accepting that like he's here for other kinds of roles. You know what I mean? And I'm glad of the possibility. Like I'm happy with like what that could possibly entail. Like there's a whole other world of roles and stories and movies and interactions that hopefully, we can see.
Yeah, yeah, and I love that he basically just embraces everything about whatever project he's working on. He does not seem bored. He's not checked out here. You know what I mean? Like he's trying to make this work as best he can, and I'm loving it. I'm feeling it, and he's bringing it, and it was great to be back.
Ba-da, bum, bum, ba. I'm loving it. So for all things Cage Club, you can go to cageclub.me, facebook.com/cageclub, or at cageclubpod on Twitter and Instagram. Email us, mailbag@cageclub.me. We'll be back hopefully a couple more times this year. I don't know. But every Friday, we've got the Tom Tom Club, Tom Cruise, Tom Hanks. I also mentioned that Joe and I are doing boyfriend material that's now out every Thursday. Joe was on our Inconceivable episode of Cage Club. Joe and I also have Too Fast, Too Forever every other Tuesday, although right now we're in a stretch where it's going to be every Tuesday for, I think, 10 weeks. There's got a lot of bonus stuff coming up. Mike was on an entire lap of that. Mike's also going to be on an episode in about 4 or 5 weeks, talking about Hobbs and Shaw. And then, Mike, you also have your Third Time's a Charm, the third of the month, every month. And we basically have new podcasts every day, every weekday, putting out about 40 or 50 a month. So if you love Cage Club and have not really dabbled in our other content, go do that. It's all available at cageclub.me or wherever you find this podcast. I'm Joey Lewandowski.
And I'm Mike Manzi.
And we'll see you next time for some movie. Also, more importantly, on episode 100, right here on Cage Club.